Buddy, today I've got joining me on this next member spotlight, Carrie Downey. Carrie, hello. How are you today?
Hi, Andrew. I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. So Carrie is actually my neighbor-ish. She's
Mhm.
based in Lexington, Kentucky, which is even more surrounded by horse farms and bourbon distilleries than I am in Louisville. So really happy to have you as part of the community with us, Carrie. And we're just going to take a few minutes today to learn a little bit more about what you do, who you serve, all these kind of things, because I think that having some awareness around that for all of our members is just something that helps facilitate people to make new introductions and grow your business, which is kind of my mission here. So, uh, Gary, I shamelessly stole your LinkedIn tagline and snuck it in here. But I do like the way you've got it here. It's automation and digital processes or processes, depending on how you
Mhm.
want to, how fancy
Mhm.
you're feeling today, with the goal of improving productivity, communication, collaboration, which, all three of those I think are real pillars, and somebody who's doing that well is going to fare better than someone who's not, right? And so
Mhm.
the fact that you kind of help with that is pretty cool. So let's pretend for a moment, Carrie, that we just met on an elevator and you have 60 seconds. I say, hey, nice to meet you, Carrie. So what do you do for a living? How can you kind of capture that in 60 seconds or less? What would be your response to me?
I always tell people that I help small businesses select and set up their software to help them run more efficiently. But the end goal being to also knock their client socks off in the process. And that's because I know the power of technology and what it can do to help businesses run more efficiently and help streamline their clients' experiences. So I'm
Okay.
all about helping small businesses in that way.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. And I can imagine if you're a business owner and you hear that, probably immediately what comes to mind is some of the headaches that you've experienced at one time or another when it comes to your technology, the software that you use. There's probably also conjures up some feelings of insecurity, a little bit of like, yeah, I bet you we're not even scratching the surface of what we could
Mhm.
be using our software for, and we just do the bare minimum.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know if those are kind of like the main things that you address, but that's what comes to my mind when I hear that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head for sure.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's dig into this just a little bit further over the next few minutes here. So, if someone you caught someone's interest in the elevator there, and they say, "Okay, yeah, give me your card and let's talk later." Now the conversation resumes, and they really want to get down to the nitty gritty here. So, like, how
Mhm.
exactly do you help your clients to be more
Mhm.
productive? Like, let's
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
sell me on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I do feel strongly that with the right technology in place, people can really take better advantage of their time because automation can really simplify a lot of the repetitive tasks that they're doing. So, sending emails to schedule things, having to recreate contracts every time. Sending products or sending out their whatever they've produced for their customer or their client. The process, if you're recreating the wheel every single time, can be time consuming. But if you have the process set up that the work is being done by the team, but the actual technology is helping communicate with the client and support the work that's being done, it really just helps simplify things. And so automation can be very useful in a lot of ways, but mostly the repetitive things that are happening inside a business are the low hanging fruit, I would say, in terms of using automation. But I also feel that there's a lot that can be done inside of a team for automating processes. So, what I just shared was more about outward facing, external to their clients, but
Mhm.
internal. instead of having to communicate through email or repeat yourself 100 times to your coworkers, there are ways that technology can serve as a communication tool with honestly just one click of a button. Changing a status update on a task that's been completed communicates a lot without having to write an email to somebody on the team saying, okay, I've done this and this with the project and it's ready for the next phase. Instead, if the proper technology is set up, teams can be communicating following what I consider to be work boards or project boards that they all have access to. It's kind of breaking down those silos of work and allowing teams to be able to share in the communication tools that are set up. And they can log in every day and see what's happening. And when they change the status to done, it can email the team leader, and the team leader knows the project's finished without having to. Um, I guess it can email the team leader, but it can also just send a notification like so and so is done with that step, right? And so there's a lot of different aspects to technology that can allow internal teams to be more productive as well.
Okay. So what I imagine happens, and tell me if I'm right with this or not, but I think as an entrepreneur, especially in the early stages, there's probably a fair bit of you don't know what you don't know, right? Like I preach that all the time when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurship in general.
Mm-hmm.
But I would think that's especially true in your world,
Mm-hmm.
where people they're just doing their thing, right?
Right.
They've got their
Mm-hmm.
these processes in their business. Maybe they have a small team of people, and they've done the work to provide the product or service that they do, but they don't realize that there's all these ways
Mm-hmm.
available to leverage technology to save them time
Yes.
and in turn make them more money, right?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then anyone watching this or listening to this, they
Mhm.
might be sitting on untapped efficiencies in their own organization
Right,
and
right.
not even know it, right?
Yes, that happens often.
Okay.
Mhm,
So if that's the case, then like what does it look like to actually work with you? Like,
mhm.
you see what I did there? Hopefully it's a smooth little segue.
I gotcha.
Yeah. But if someone doesn't know that they have that though,
Right, yeah,
how what's kind of the pain point that prompts them to work with you,
yeah.
or how does that look?
Yeah. Well, oftentimes, folks will be frustrated with the fact that they're having to redo work. Maybe problems are arising within their team, and team members are getting frustrated. So I always tell folks that the ROI on working with me is not only increasing your team productivity and looking better to your clients, but it's also helping to cut down on errors that are happening within the work and not having to repeat things over again. And it's also an opportunity for folks to be able to really track the money better. And that could be in way of numbers of leads and potential customers and things that are slipping through the cracks every day, right? And so as entrepreneurs, folks have very full plates, and so if there can be systems created in internally to allow you to just feel like you have a better handle on things, then it lessens the stress, right? And to your point about folks don't know what they don't know, totally agree with that. I mean, the majority of folks have either Microsoft Office, right? Google Workspace to get started. And then they may add a CRM, or they may be using spreadsheets to track things. They might add in a project management tool, but it's kind of like piecemeal, right? As the need arises, they'll try and find a solution for it. And so when they work with me, I do initially I do a digital process deep dive with them. It's just a 2-hour meeting where we dive deep into the technical setup that they're using. And certainly some are very basic, and that's fine. And others have gotten to be too complex, quite honestly. And because they've added things piecemeal, Not everything is working well together, and team members can be overwhelmed by too much technology and not knowing where the right place to go for certain things. So either end of the spectrum, quite honestly, it's okay to get started. But the digital process deep dive allows us to talk about, how do leads come into your business? How do they find you? How do they submit their interest? What happens next? And we literally go through every step of the process from start to finish of working with a customer. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I can see how that 2 hour engagement could yield a lot of, really kind of fruitful insights by the time you're done with it. Because
Yeah. Yeah.
as a business owner, you're, maybe in the early days, especially, you're just in survival mode, right? And you just need to
Mhm.
get work done.
Yeah.
And either not a lot of thought is put into, is this the most efficient way to do it? Or they just don't know a better way
Mhm.
that even exists. And simply having an outside perspective that you bring to the table, paired
Mhm.
with your experience in helping people find these efficiencies, plug those holes in the ship, where you're leaking efficiency here,
Yeah. Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and you don't even know it. You could actually, your business could move a lot further, a lot faster,
Mhm.
just by tightening up on those. So
Well, I would say that that digital process deep dive is truly a good overview and allows people to start to see the possibilities of what digital tools can do for them. And if they want to end there after I provide some recommendations, it's totally fine. But if they want my help implementing recommendations, I do have a couple options for how folks can work with me. The first is that if they want to do it in a group community sense, I do have an online virtual community called Tech Clarity. Folks can subscribe for a year subscription and be able to access me through live Q&A calls, through the community posting questions about technology, and other members in the community could certainly chime in and answer. We also offer co-working sessions where folks can just block out time to do their own technology setup with the support of myself and other digital consultants inside the community. So that's one way. But the other level is for folks who want to do it themselves but need a very step-by-step instruction and accountability. I offer a DIY consultation level of service. But the highest level of service is really my implementation partnership. That's where businesses sign on and basically have me for an entire term, which is I do 3-month renewable terms. And I have office hours set every week for their business. And so I become their, essentially like their digital productivity officer of their business, to try and help them really implement all of these changes. Because some businesses say, yes, I love that plan, but we are too swamped and we cannot do all that setup by ourselves. We need you to help us. And I love that, because then I get to be a part of their team and I get to hear all the nitty gritty of what they need. And then I can come up with even more help and solutions that way. And so being committed to a team for a period of time really allows me to dig in and set up a full blown system, which is awesome.
yeah, that's cool.
Instead of just solving one problem, we're actually addressing the holistic approach within the business. And that is really awesome. So,
Yeah, that makes sense, and it seems like a theme that I keep finding is universal for entrepreneurs is access to the knowledge of something is not the challenge, right? We all have access to knowledge at our fingertips. We probably arguably have too much knowledge, right?
mhm.
It's the implementation of
Yes.
the knowledge is
Mhm.
the sticky wicket, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And what I'm hearing that you're offering is really kind of two tiers here. There's the, and this is separate from the discovery call, right? That
Mhm.
brings the
Yes. Yeah.
awareness to the problem.
Yeah.
But then your two tiers are done with you
Hmm.
at the community level and done for you at the
Hmm.
real kind of implementation level. And so I'm making assumptions here, but those are two different price points depending on where you're at in your business and what you can afford to do. You've got options available.
Yes. And that's quite honestly why I designed it that way, because I realized that not everybody is ready to invest in the do it for you. And that's understandable. If they're a new budding business and they still have some other things they need to iron out, it actually makes sense to wait a little while to actually implement systems until they're further down the road. But I don't want to not be available to them. And so that's why I have always offered the DIY level of service, which is more individualized. We meet one on one and discuss their needs. But beyond that, I thought, you know what, there is possibility that people can all benefit from being in a community with other business owners who have used Calendly before, who have tried to implement Microsoft Planner, who have tried to use Trello but aren't really sure how to get their team on board with it, right? And so I wanted to create a place where we could talk about these kinds of things
Mhm.
and offer also a way for people to see I created a video vault inside Tech Clarity community because I wanted it to be an introduction to uh, technology for folks that don't know it even exists, right? So you could go out and Google, you could go out and YouTube. Absolutely, you're right. We have access to a ton of knowledge, but the fact is that I wanted to create a brief, to the point capsule of information for people to be able to learn about how Google Meet works, for them to see how Monday.com can be useful to them, to be able to give them an idea of how to use Trello better, right? So there's a video vault of all different types of software that I want to kind of give them a little tour of. And so that's another benefit within the Tech Clarity community.
And I think that's the thing with a lot of this software that exists today is it's incredibly powerful, and most people just barely scratch the surface. But
Mm-hmm.
simple exposure to the ways other people are
Yeah.
putting this to use in their business can really kind of get the gears turning for you
Yeah.
on how you can apply it. So, on that point, and just kind of rounding this conversation out, why should business owners care about the technology that they put into place?
I really feel very strongly that it is what is going to help people scale their business. And truly, honestly, processes and technology are really the only thing that separates small business from big business, because big business has more people and more processes in place, they can accomplish more, right? But I don't think that small businesses should shy away from aspiring to be able to do more and provide more service, right? So technology is a very clear way of getting there, but it also helps retain talent. So as people are growing their teams, there's nothing more frustrating to an employee, right? To come in and not have any direction, not have any systems in place, not have any understanding of how they're supposed to be successful at their work. And in order to keep good talent, employers need to be thinking about how technology can help their employees be successful at their work so they can feel good about it, right? And so for me, those are the two main reasons that people should care about technology. But beyond that, the customers are expecting it,
Mhm.
right? Technology has changed our consumer experience so greatly that we now get frustrated when we don't get return calls. We can't get a contractor to come service the roof that's broken. Like when we can't get connected with a lawyer quickly because we need their services, or we place a call and then they never come through with the engagement agreement, or it's like all these frustrating steps that as a consumer we want it to be easier. And so therefore, I really feel like in order to retain clients and get new clients, that if the process is smooth and easy for them, then they are more likely to return and also sing your praises to other people. So,
Yeah, that makes sense. And to me, kind of the expression that comes to my mind is punching above your weight, right?
mm, Mhm.
And it's like a small business with limited resources can punch above their weight if they use technology effectively.
Yes.
And that in turn has all these auxiliary benefits when it comes to your customers, your
Mhm.
employees, your own efficiency, and therefore your profits too, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely. And, someone like yourself, Andrew, who has a background in IT, I mean, your setup for first gen is like amazing, right? I mean, you have all the cool technology. Everybody who joins the community knows it, which is awesome. But it's because you, A, have a background in technology, and B, aren't afraid to try new things, right? And so you'll push a button and see what it looks like and what it
right,
does, right?
right.
And not have any concern with that. And I'm like that as well. And so all I want to do is be the bridge to people who aren't comfortable in that space, who don't love technology, who don't consider themselves tech savvy. I want to be a bridge for them and help them get comfortable. I want to meet them where they are in their learning experiences with it. And I want to help them get comfortable to press that button. It's going to be okay. So um, that's my mission, really.
Yeah, awesome. Well, and I'll make one last comment before we wrap up here too, because you're right. Like I'm a techie at heart, and but I'm the exception, not the rule. Like there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there who
Mhm.
that they're not super tech forward. They use it, but not fully, right?
Mhm.
And I know personally, I mean, I can think of several personally who are like, these are phenomenal people in their area of expertise
Mhm.
who really know their stuff and can really serve customers well.
Mhm. Mhm.
But because of their lack of leveraging technology or their comfort level with it to do it, they're not getting out in front of the right people.
Mhm.
They're not supporting as many as they could because they're not saving as much time. Like it's really kind of hindering their business, but they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
And you can kind of act as that guide to help them expose them to what they could be doing, help them with the implementation of it, and do it at different price points depending on where they are in their business.
Yes. Yes.
So
Exactly.
that's
Mhm.
that's great. I really appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day
Mhm.
to
Yes.
share this with us. So if someone wants to get a hold of you, the best way to do that is just go to claritycode.org. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And on there, if you want to schedule a call with me, I do a complimentary exploratory call. So if you just want to chat and figure out if you're using technology to the best of your abilities, we can chat. So,
Awesome. Well, that takes all the risk out of it. No harm, no foul. Just
exactly.
schedule that call and see where it takes you. It might help your
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Carrie. Appreciate your time, and we'll talk again soon.
Yeah. Sounds good. Thanks, Andrew. Bye.